Mr. Wolkoff?
Yes, this is Daniel Wolkoff.
Okay, great. So it sounds like we have everyone on the line. I'll let Judge Mehta know that we're all ready. And as a benefit to our court reporters, could you please use the microphone speaking on the record? One moment. Morning, Your Honor. This is Civil Action 21-1279. Jimmi Boykin et al. Versus the District of Columbia et al. Andreas Stangard for plaintiffs. Boykin, Norman, and LLP. Daniel Wolkoff representing himself in the probate city. Russell Heath and Andreas Stangard for the defendant.
All right, counsel, good morning. Mr. Wolkoff, good morning to you. All right, so we're just back this morning. I wanted to get some more information, or ask the district to get some more information about where the demolition project stood and what that meant, and how that might impact the timetable I've contemplated for the TRO motion. So why don't we start with district counsel, and if there's anything more you'd like to share that might enlighten me on the status of the project and what that means for our schedule. I appreciate it.
Yes, this is Brendan Heath on behalf of the district. So I'll cut to the chase, Your Honor. We still believe that no stay is appropriate here, pending resolution of the TRO. And if it's amenable to Your Honor, I'll first discuss what's currently happening on the site and then explain why, given the circumstances, a stay is not appropriate here.
That's fine.
Okay, so first of all, for some background, the site at issue here is roughly a rectangular shape. There are 20 underground cells here. Each cell is about an acre. And they're split into three segments. There's a northern segment, central, and southern. Currently, the work is being performed in the central parcel. There are 10 cells in the central parcel, 2 rows of 5. We're not currently doing any demolishing work in the southern segment. The southern segment would be where the park and community center will be. The reason for this is that the central parcel is at grade, the southern one's not. So it's simply easier for us to begin work at the central. There's no work being done at the southern end of it. Specifically, cells numbered 15 through 19 are being worked on right now. That's a row of 5 across the north side of that central parcel. As of this Friday, it's 4, roughly, of each of cells 15 through 19 will be demolished. And as of next Friday, it's estimated that about a half of each of cells 15 through 19 will be demolished. These cells are underground. There is also some associated demolition of the ramps and the plinths that are a part of those cells. And in total, the demolition is estimated to take about 10 months. That process includes the topsoil removal, the demolition, and carting all the material away. And just a background point on the condition of these cells, this is over.
Can I interrupt you for a moment for the next one? I understand you said currently cells 15 through 19 are being worked on, and I'm sorry, you said what will happen by next Friday?
So by this Friday, it's estimated a fourth of each of those cells will be demolished. By next Friday, about a half.
Okay, I see. Okay.
this is, and by the way, this is if you've seen the picture that Mr. Wolkoff sent, this is in the first picture. It's in terms of the split of the cells, that's an accurate representation. But I think his picture shows that number 20 is also circled, and that's not accurate. It's only cells 15 through 19 right now. So the condition of these cells is that this is unreinforced concrete. It's over 100 years old now, and the site was decommissioned for its original industrial use about 40 years ago. So these cells are already in bad shape. They're in disrepair. They're in danger of imminent collapse. That's a specific finding by the mayor's agent for historic preservation and was affirmed by the District of Columbia Court of Appeals. And with that, I would just explain further why this stay is not appropriate, which is that cells that are currently being demolished and have already been partly demolished are at an even elevated risk of collapse since the support structures have been removed. That's dangerous. It will damage the property if there's an uncontrolled collapse. Huge development plan, and it would mean that for plaintiffs, the historic resource would be destroyed in either way. So for that reason, it doesn't really make sense to stay demolition of what's already been partly demolished. So in a sense, things are moved as to cells 15 through 19, but the district is not demolishing beyond cells 15 through 19 by next Friday. So by the time this court has the hearing on the TRO, plenty of the other historic cells will still be there for the court to rule on. Although again, I will note that even the cells that are not being demolished are in poor shape and at risk of collapse. Moving on to the cost to the district. So this.
Just one more question. So, my understanding, correctly from what you're so far summarized, that there hasn't been demolition of any other cells other than 15 through 19. In other words, you said that what's currently being demolished are cells 15 through 19. But do I understand correctly that those are the only cells that have been demolished at all?
That's correct. The district had previously done some topsoil removal, but I believe even that was ended up being stayed by the prior stay of demolition. But in terms of actual demolishing activities, that's correct.
Okay.
So cost of the district, so that the development has been stayed for a very long time. It was most recently first stayed January 10th, 2020 in the DC Superior Court during litigation over the demolition and foundation permits, and then that stay was extended by the District of Columbia Court of Appeals until very recently. That stay, well, first of all, that stay itself was very costly to the district. But given that there was already an extended stay, that increases the cost to the district of a further stay because the cells have deteriorated even further. There are mounting costs to the district from its hired contractors and subcontractors. There are problems with, having had to refrain from doing work on the site and then starting and then stopping again. And it's different from the prior stay that was imposed by the District of Columbia Court of Appeals because the case here was not even filed, so it was not foreseeable. And then finally, just on the merits, the plaintiff's claims here simply are not meritorious. Even if they had standing, even if they had a cause of action, they don't have either. The covenants here were satisfied because May 22nd, 2014, the state historic preservation officer signed off on the development plan. And that was an issue specifically before the mayor's agent for historic preservation, which did not, declined to deny the plan on that basis. And plaintiffs there failed to appeal the issue. So the District of Columbia Court of Appeals ruled that the issue was forfeited. And again, stepping back even more broadly, the standards, the Interior Secretary standards for rehabilitation at the plaintiff's site do not categorically forbid demolition. They don't categorically forbid building new buildings on an historic site, particularly where the old buildings can't be reused or readapted, and that's what we have here. The Mayor's Agent of Historic Preservation, affirmed by the District of Columbia Court of Appeals, held that this project is a net historic preservation gain, not in spite of the demolition, but because of the demolition. The cells are currently in a terrible shape. The site is inaccessible to the public, but the development plans will preserve and a sample of the cells to be shown to the public, which currently they're in poor shape and they can't be seen by anybody. So this project is a net historic preservation gain, and that's what and a stay would halt that.
Okay. That Mr. Heath is quite helpful. I appreciate you going back to gather up the information that you shared this morning. Did you want to add anything else before I turn to Mr. Stangard and Mr. Wolkoff?
Not unless Your Honor has any questions.
No, I don't think so. All right, Mr. Stangard.
Thanks, Your Honor. This is Andreas Stangard for three of the named plaintiffs. By way of background, Your Honor instructed us, the parties, yesterday to meet and confer about a compromise solution pending resolution, briefing and resolution of this TRO that was filed on Monday, or got to the court on Tuesday, as the case may be. And the outreach was done yesterday by email. We plaintiffs responded with an email proposing two alternatives. One, defendants agreed to unilaterally halt demolition, and plaintiffs would consent to any extension of time that defense might need to brief this issue. So we would give them more time than the Monday deadline that you set, Your Honor, for their opposition brief. The alternative we offered, a second option, would be that if that was unacceptable to the defense and they just absolutely have to get the contractors going and move those earth-moving machines around, what should be done is, and I think we submitted, Mr. Wolkoff submitted a graphic to you, Your Honor, and we submitted the same to opposing counsel. What should be done is only the actually deteriorated cells in the south, two of which have already been destroyed, which you see there in the graphic if you have it open. They are almost all orange on the southerly end. Should be demolished, while the good ones, i.e. the ones that Mr. Heath just admitted are currently being worked on, they're far from being completely demolished. You see in our submission on pages 2 and 3, the photographic submission, Your Honor, that there's only minimal excavation having been done, which shows how strong these cells actually are. They are currently working on 2 of the 3 remaining good condition cells, which is absolutely unacceptable. So we said, alternatively, we offer that you continue your demolition if it absolutely has to move forward. On the demolished one, on the destroyed ones, that happen to be also coinciding with the only building permit that has been issued thus far by DCRA, which is that of the proposed community center. What the defendants have done here, Your Honor, just to be clear, is they've used the unlimited demolition permit, which covers the entire site from Michigan Avenue to Channing and from North Capitol to First, east to west. And they're picking the good cells so that we are essentially put before a done deed in terms of the demolition effort, even though it absolutely does not coincide with the existing building permit, which is in a completely different part of the 25-acre parcel. So it would make absolutely logical and economic sense to go ahead and move ahead with demolition if it has to happen on the space that is coincides with the demolition, with the building permit on the southerly end. We did not hear back from Mr. Heath at all. I pinged him again yesterday until this morning, less than an hour before the hearing, where he said very briefly, thanks for your patience, but we maintain that a stay is not appropriate given the work that's currently being done. Thanks. So it's a simple no, there's no compromise here, and that is unacceptable. If I may continue, Your Honor, regarding Mr. Heath's representations he just made. He's talking about the condition of these cells. He's obviously not been on this property himself. I have. I think all of the plaintiffs have. Ms. Boykin used to actually play there with her children when it was still open. These are unreinforced concrete vaults, as he correctly states, and he says they're in terrible shape. They're 100 years old. Your Honor, the Pantheon in Rome is exactly the same material, unreinforced concrete. That was built around 124 of the Common Era. Okay, the statement that 100-year-old unreinforced concrete vaults are the most stable architectural structure one could possibly imagine. These are fairly stable. Nothing there has fallen in.
But can I ask you a question? What's the basis of your representation? I mean, the district has just told me that there's actually been a finding that they're not stable. I mean, how am I? What's the basis of your contrary contention?
Your Honor, there are several reports, and in fact, the image that we submitted to you is actually part of one of the VMP project reports, i.e., the public-private partnership that the defendants are engaged in. That shows that the cells that we are talking about, i.e., if you have that open, that row of cells, let me pull it up here, that row of cells, 15 through 19. So cells 16 and 17, the green ones, as well as cell 21, are actually in good condition. They only have minor damage. If you read the entire report, we did not submit the entire report yet, because we're simply not in the merits phase yet, Your Honor. We will be happy to submit that report to you as well if you want to engage in further sort of self-education on this project. But the report clearly says, this is not me speaking as a lawyer, these are structural engineers. This is an engineering report from which this is taken. And they state that the cells with minor and moderate damage, the green and yellow ones, are not at imminent risk of collapse at all. And these are recent reports that state that the progress of damage has been minor over the recent years. So that's the source of my information, Your Honor.
Okay. Well, look, I guess here's where I am. I don't want to determine what you're going to say, but what I hear the district saying is that there are currently 5 cells that are being demolished. That process is underway. That process has been underway for the last 10 plus days. And it would be dangerous, would potentially create additional risks and danger to stop that demolition now. Given that a portion of those cells have already been demolished, it increases the risk. And so it doesn't seem to me to make a lot of sense to modify the schedule that we discussed yesterday in light of the progress or the work that's already been undertaken and the conditions that are on the ground. There is a conjunction to be had. It will apply to those cells that have not been demolished yet. And then we can talk about what it means for the cells where demolition has taken place. But to sort of stop this big demolition based upon without the district having had an opportunity to respond in a meaningful way, doesn't seem prudent to me. And so nothing I've heard so far is going to move me to think that, one, I can't compel the district to reach an agreement. They'll either agree or they don't. And the only way I can grant you the relief you're seeking is to make a merits determination under a TRO preliminary injunction. And I haven't gotten any kind of briefing from the district. So, I'm not inclined at this point to change the schedule in light of learning what the facts are on the ground.
Your Honor, this is Andreas Stangard again. I understand what you're saying, and I appreciate the logical and procedural dilemma you're presenting us with. I would only add that you challenge me on the source of my statement that there's no risk of imminent collapse. I gave you the answer that it was an engineering report that was even part of the BMP package. I would love for you to challenge Mr. Heath on his statement that he just gave you, that for some reason halting the demolition right now that's underway, which is minimal to date. If you look at our submission, Your Honor, of the photographs, you see exactly what we're talking about. Those are the corner cells there. They're simply standing on hundreds of columns that are fine, with grass on top and concrete on top that's been there for 100 years. I don't see where Mr. Heath is getting his information that there's any risk of further damage. There are currently diggers that are destroying this, and large boulders of concrete are falling down. If there were any risk of further sort of self-imposed destruction of the cells because of a 1 week pause, it would simply be the same thing. Further boulders of concrete would fall down. Nobody's on the site. There's 24/7 security on the site. There's no risk.
I'm not so sure it's that simple. I mean, look, neither of us are structural engineers. The notion that simply having concrete starting to fall is not a big deal if no one can get hit by it. I think that's all a bit of a stretch. Look, I understand. I recognize that where we are is less, less than optimal from this line standpoint. But again, some of it is attributable to the fact that they delayed 10 days to come in and the injunction that went out. The demolition started 10 plus days ago, and the consequence rushing in now to ask me to stop it. Big demo of the 4 and 5 cells. Now, just note, I'm just according to the diagram and all this thing. I mean, one of the cells, all 15 is identified as unspotted. 2 of them, 15 and 17, have minor damage. The third, 18 has moderate damage. The fourth, 19, actually has been collapsed wall. So there is a varying degree of, according to what you're saying, a varying degree of damage to each of those 5 cells. And so I don't know why they started where they started, but that's where they started. And if you all have gotten in here sooner, then maybe we would have resolved this a little bit more quickly. I'm not in a position, perhaps in agreement with the district, to take any action until we receive a more fulsome briefing. Okay.
Judge Mehta.
Wolkoff, I'll give you an opportunity if you'd like to be heard from it.
Yes, could I add to that, please?
Sure.
Well, the far northeast cell, which is on that chart of structural integrity, is yellow. The far northeast cell has been repurposed by the District of Columbia water system that collects stormwater, millions of gallons of stormwater runoff. That's trying to help reduce the flooding issues that are in the neighborhood. That's why they're building the northeast boundary tunnel in the southwest corner. So, the southwest corner was repurposed for the tunnel entrance, and that was recovered along the standards, the Secretary of Interior standards. The DC Water recovered it. Actually, I've been on that corner of the property, and you wouldn't even know the tunnel is there. Actually, it's invisible at this point. And the northeast, furthest northeast cell, which is listed as yellow, that's been repurposed for collecting stormwater so that the flooding is mitigated. That's been such a problem there. And the District of Columbia spent $15 million to recondition, repurpose the far northeast tunnel. And it's obviously sturdy enough to contain millions of gallons of water during high rainfall. And also, just last thing in terms of that, the historic preservation report that BMP did with EHT traceries Eleanor Emily Ives. That report, the final draft, 1998, says, regardless of whether it is the property is sold to the developer or remains under DC ownership, further, all plans and specifications must comply with the Secretary standards. So that's the issue that we're bringing here, that everything on the site, all the work on the site, is to be by federal law in accordance with the standards. So the District of Columbia followed that in repurposing a massive tunnel. The tunnel is 28 feet in diameter. If you go to that cell on the southwest, I've been there, you're just walking on an undisturbed, it's kind of amazing, like where's the tunnel? So are they obligated to follow, according to our claim, the Secretary of Interior standards, which don't allow demolition?
Okay, period. Okay. Well, look, Mr. Wolkoff, I think, we're leaking into the merits here, and it's hard for me to really address those or have a sense of where those fall. So, look, I think based on what I have been told, what's been represented, I think the prudent course, stated course we set out yesterday. District will provide its opposition brief by Monday. We'll get a reply brief from the plaintiffs by Wednesday, and we'll have a hearing on Thursday. And I will move as quickly as I can, based on that schedule, to get you all a decision on how we're going to proceed. Okay?
Yeah.
So,
Your Honor, one last quick point, quickly, very fast.
I've got to get to another matter, so I'll give you. It's got to be quick.
Yeah. Historic sites all over the world that are being preserved or repurposed have often the damage of weather and the damage of neglect, and it becomes part of the history of the site. So we're saying that we want the standards applied, and if the cells that have been started to be damaged end up being part of the historic site and the historic record and the historic interest, so be it. But we want the standards observed. That's the law.
Okay.
Your Honor, may I finish with the other three plaintiffs? It'll be less than 30 seconds. This is Andreas Stangard. We understand where you are, and we accept that. It is what it is. If we could only obtain from the district, while we have counsel from the district on the line here, I understand I take it as somewhat of a promise that there would be not more than, I believe, half. Your Honor, you also asked the district about that to clarify, and I'm not quite sure I understood. What exactly are they saying will be done by next Friday? They are saying, the district is saying that no more than half of the cells between 15 and 19 will be demolished, i.e. the district will not move to any currently undemolished cells. If that's their statement, I guess that's what we have to live with. But I would like to just clarify that, Your Honor. Thanks.
Dave, can you provide any greater clarity or address the question?
Your Honor, Brennan Heath for the district defendants. My understanding from what I've been told by the relevant agencies is that roughly 1/2 of the 5 indicated cells will be demolished by next Friday. I'm not in a position to make any particular promises or anything of that sort, but that's my understanding of the process.
And I guess maybe the related question is, we take that to also mean that there will be no movement on the other cells, that is, other than 15 through 19 by next week. That is the focus of the demolition, the sole exclusive focus on the demolition schedule is 15 through 19 over the next 7 days or so.
of demolition, that's correct. I believe there's some soil borings that are being done on some of the southern sites. I mean, so there could be movement in that sense, and that there'll be work being done, but that's not demolition work.
Okay. All right. That answer your question, Mr. Stangard?
It does. Thanks, Your Honor.
Okay. All right. So we'll look forward to getting everybody's papers next week, and then we'll have a hearing on Thursday, and we'll make sure that we have information for that hearing. We'll do it remotely by Zoom.